JSLs, and welcome to the third episode of Is It Bawal, the Jonaxx podcast, where I'll be serving sass, pizzazz, and opinions hotter than your group chat's gossip. I'm your mainstay host, Nicole. Welcome again on my podcast. So before everything else, I just want to say my disclaimer that the views and opinions of this podcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Jonaxx, the author herself. So without further ado, I'm going to be welcoming now the third guest for my podcast. Okay, here she is, guys. My third guest for my podcast, Yanni. Hi, Yanni.
Hi, Ate.
How are you doing today?
Okay lang ako kasi wala pang masyadong proper classes and also malaki pa ang free time ko ngayon. So, it's actually good. Doing good.
That's great. And thank you for being here for my podcast.
Ako si Yanni, currently a 21-year-old third-year college student from Cebu City. And mahilig kasi ako magbasa, so I've read like a lot of fictional works, starting from Wattpad and young adult fictions. Like hobby ko yun nung bata pa ako hanggang ngayon, nadala ko siya sa college. And I became a JSL noong 2018 kasi super hype nung Wattpad era ng mga kaklase ko. And grabe kasi sila nag-recommend sa akin na magbasa ng Wattpad, yung mga Taglish na stories kasi hindi pa ako nabasa ng Taglish stories noon. So during that time, I think it was grade 8 pa ako noon and recommend sila sa akin na basahin ang stories ni Jonaxx. So, yung unang nabasa ko was Island of Fire and ongoing pa noon yung Ruling the Wild Wave. So, ang unang binasa ko ay yung Island of Fire. At saka na-hook ako kasi ang ganda ng characterization si Ate J. And super kulit ni Zari. So, na-hook ako sa story. And tapos, yung sunod binasa ko was To Stay. Inuna ko siya before until trilogy. And yung nabasa ko siya was like, hindi ko pa siya masyadong naintindihan kasi yung whole scenario ng To Stay was naka-revolve around sa situation at feelings ni Erin towards Aeon at saka yung Clarija. So, nung binasa ko yung UT, dyan ako naging diehard JSL, just like majority ng mga tao. Patuloy pa rin ang pagiging JSL ko, and up until nag-college ako, hindi ko nabitawan yung pagiging JSL ko kasi pabalik-balik ako sa stories niya. Like may adjective something sa stories niya.
I know. That's talagang the way she writes her stories is really something else. Kaya nga, like you, marami ding yung, alam mo yung sinasabi nila, lagi nilang hinahanap yung the way she writes kapag nagbabasa sila ng other works. She really does well on her craft talaga. So,
kasi naka-revolve kasi sa characters yung story, hindi lang kasi sa mga ibang details. Kaya, nahook ako.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually very true. Yeah, magaling talaga siya magsulat. Talagang simply beautiful talaga. Okay, so thanks for sharing your story on how you became a JSL. So ngayon guys, we're gonna be jumping in on our part 1 for this podcast, and that will be about yung mga naging shift ni Jonaxx on her themes, especially nung sa To Fall Again. And ito yung mga example dito is yung gumamit siya ng mga real life scenarios and yung first time niyang mag-POV nung sa lalaki na siya yung main POV dun sa main story. Okay, so Yanni, let's start discussing about this. So, di ba, nasabi mo nga, when you wanted to talk about yung ginawa ni Jonaxx sa To Fall Again. As we all know, spoiler alert para sa mga nakikinig kung hindi nyo pa nababasa ang To Fall Again. So, di ba, ang naging main issue doon is yung nangyari kay Raniela or Ray for short, na nagkaroon nga siya ng yung video na kumalat, she was making out with this guy, and sadly, dito nga siya nasira, nagkaroon ng bad image, di ba? So, anong masasabi mo nung nag-start gumamit ng ganung theme si Jonaxx in her story?
Actually, it was shocking kasi same kasi yung similar formulas kasi ginamit niya throughout her whole series, though may mga conflicts ganon, and hindi ko in-expect na mas lalong naging real life yung mga scenarios because scandal is really rampant, especially sa timeline sa TFA, which is the 2010s. Ang daming scandal kasi nung makalat sa social media. And most importantly, ang dami kasing biktima nun, especially teenage girls or college girls na mabiktima sa scandal. So, na-shock ako nga, ganun yung theme ginamit niya. And hindi ko in-expect kasi wala siyang spoiler na sinabi tungkol TFA throughout the whole timeline. Before na gulat ako kasi wala, ganito pala yung theme sa TFA, tapos ang daming nag-aaway on Facebook, on Twitter, sa buong fandom kasi dahil ganito, ganyan. And maraming mga readers niya, like usually yung mga nakaabot sa first parts ng TFA before na unpublished, at yung mga readers niya na medyo baguhan pa, hindi pa naiintindihan. Though, nagsabi na si Ate J na gusto niya open-minded pa yung mga readers niya magbasa ng TFA. So, yun pala yung meaning niya noon. Kasi, I did not expect na sa lahat ng taon nagka-scandal yung tao, yung main character. Kasi, usually yung main characters kasi sa ni Jonaxx is, they got themselves into a situation tapos maliligtas sila ng mga certain factors. Pero, ngayon sa TFA was like, na-scrutinize yung bida ng super like, sa ibang characters, low-key nahusgahan rin siya sa main lead niya, at tsaka nahusgahan rin siya sa mga readers. So, ang ganda ng era na yun, though chaotic, pero very realistic na pagkasulat niya. And the fact that it was really appropriate to talk about kasi ang daming tao na mahilig mag-scrutinize ng tao na may kissing video, may nakalat na scenario, yung pinagchichismisan nila, ikakalat nila sa circle of friends nila, and especially sa school, which is very grabe siya.
Yeah.
Like, even ako makarelate because may mga issues here and there sa seniors namin, and especially ngayon, like, currently in college ako, like, na totoo talaga yan. Like, it's gonna happen to anyone.
I know. Like, it can happen totally talaga to anyone. I don't know kung naalala mo ba it was 2012-ish. Naalala mo yung babaeng si Amalayer? Naalala mo yung nag-viral na yun, a video na yun?
Yeah. Yun.
Siya yung naalala ko dun sa nangyari kay Reniela dito sa TFA. Yung talaga yung first thing na pumasok sa isip ko, yung nag-viral yung si Amalayer girl. Yung, I think si Paula ba yung pangalan niya nun? Di ba kasi di ba yung nangyari?
Viral siya.
Oo, yung naaway niya yung lady guard, di ba, doon sa LRT station ba yon? Tapos, it was a misunderstanding, pero talagang sobra siyang na-scrutinize that time eh. So, yeah, going back, talagang yun yung unang pumasok sa isip ko when I finally read To Fall Again, yung nangyari kay Reniela. Kasi, ang na-villainize agad is yung pinaka obvious to sa video. Well, yung kay Amalayer kasi syempre siya yung nagmukhang villain, pero yung nangyari kay Reniela is because dahil nga siya yung babae sa video, siya yung pinaka naging probe sa scrutiny ng mga tao na nakapanood. Like, anong narinig natin from the guy, di ba? So, ayun. Yeah,
actually, yung mga common kasi yung sa mga na-viral video na ganon involving a girl and a boy, yung sa 2010, I think 2014 to 2016, marami kasing, yung mga babae mas hinusgahan bakit nangyayari ito sa kanila instead of asking sa guy na bakit ginawa nila yun. Like, yung blaming kasi is nasa victim, hindi yung sa perpetrator. So,
exactly.
Ang daming nangyayari kasi and especially ang ganda ng pagkasulat niyan ni Jonaxx kasi na point of view niya from a person na hindi talaga nakakita nun. Which is
I know, right? Yeah, I know, si Josiah di ba, siya yung, kasi syempre, siya na ikukwento So, talagang para siyang, naging scandal, third person point of view na siya. Like, hindi siya talaga yung involved doon sa sa mismong video. So, it's an interesting perspective, right? Like, seeing it from someone na parang parang kumbaga, heard it na lang from hearsay, from stories from other people. Like, word of mouth na lang nakarating sa kanya, diba? Kaya, it's really interesting to hear that. And, just to build on what you were saying, talagang shinak talaga ni Jonaxx yung JSLs for using this team. And it really does require a very open mind to absorb and to understand this kind of situation. And unfortunately, for some people, meron pa nga mga hindi pa handa na makabasa ng ganito. Kasi I'm assuming, kasi hindi ako active na JSL nung ongoing ang TFA, and I heard how crazy it was that time. Believe me, I've heard so many stories about how crazy it was. And siguro kasi, syempre, yung mga sanay sa, alam mo, puro pakilig talaga na stories ni Jonaxx, yung walang kasamang social issues. Alam mo na yung typical na pakilig na may konting pasakit pero nagkabalikan. I'm assuming a lot of JSLs is expecting that kind of formula rin. Kaya I don't blame them in a way na shocker sa kanila itong nagkaroon ng pasok ng social issue sa kwento ni Reniela. Kaya may sensitivity talaga siyang aspect. And so sadly, not all people are ready to accept that factor in a story. It does take a lot of open-mindedness and maturity para nga talagang ma-absorb mo siyang maigi. And kaya pag medyo, alam mo na, yung medyo bata-bata pat hindi pa ganung mature ang kanilang isip sa gantong story, it will be hard for them to take it. And grabe, ang isa pag dibang naging madinding away nga is yung si Mapol versus Ray. But anyway,
as in, it's a really big shocker because you weren't really expecting that that's gonna happen, because the title itself did not actually foreshadow the situation. So I was guessing na talaga mag-shift na talaga si Ate J ng kanyang themes dito, because since TFA era, patuloy yung mga themes niya na naging medyo realistic na siya. Because most scenarios kasi na nakikita ko, one of the most realistic na situations na nakikita ko sa kanya was in Blown by the Wind, yung showbiz na issues, which is na-involve story ng ganito ganyan. But the thing is, mas madali makasympathize yung reader sa Yuri kasi nakasulat yon sa point of view niya, which is comparative sa TFA, nakasulat yun from a third person point of view na hindi nakakita sa buong pangyayari. Because yung nakita lang ni Josiah kasi is yung when Chris was smelling Ray's perfume on her neck, yun lang ang nakikita niya. But the whole scandal is hindi niya talaga alam because video lang yung nakikita nila. And one thing kasi is that maintindihan ko yung readers if they actually have a hard time sympathizing with Ray during that issue because hindi talaga nakasulat sa buong point of view niya. Which is why medyo importante kapag binasa nila yung wakas is magbabasa sila with an open mind. But I think na magdepende lang yun sa tao because no one was really expecting during that time because ang nalalaman lang natin yung pinaka-mature na content niya that time was Costaliona. So, hindi natin na-expect na sa Team Fit pala niya nalagay yung pinaka-realistic na issue. So,
I know, right? Tama ka dyan. Kasi before this, diba, nasa Costaliona yung talagang mature na genre. Pero inserting this type of issue with in a Teen Fix series, TFA, it's kind of, in a way, revolutionary din sa pagsusulat niya. But, you know what? Yeah. Pero, at least, nakatikim din ng something new and different din ng readers, right? Kasi, syempre, even Jonaxx herself would want herself to evolve din in her writing. Like, she can't just be sticking in the same exact formula, same exact script the whole time, in her whole writing life. So, okay lang din naman yun na she is exploring different dimensions din. And ganoon naman talaga ang mga writers. So, yeah, it's just, ang maganda naman dito is, hindi naman namimilit si Jonaxx. You always have the freedom to, if you wanna read it or if you don't. And as you can see naman, kahit makatanggap siya ng negative comments on what she writes, she never retaliated really on kung may mga ayaw sa stories niya. Kasi like I said, hindi naman siya she doesn't fish for her readers. She just puts her craft out there, and bahala ka na if you're gonna accept it or not, right?
Actually, kasi ang ganda kasi yung mga bago niyang themes, especially na-hook ako sa After the Last series kasi first
Oh
time
my
ko
gosh,
nakita
yes.
may J-girl na widowed, may J-girl na very distorted, tapos may incoming pa na divorcee na J-girl. Like, one thing kasi sa akin is like, ang ganda ng evolution niya sa pag-shift niya. And I think that TFA was a good start to do it. Kasi
Exactly.
yung
Yeah.
mga niya, characters were teenagers. So, makikita natin na, problematic talaga itong mga teenagers. Tapos dito sa After the Last series, lahat ng bida nila, they have some sort of, some form of problematic sa kanilang morals. Kaya ang nakikita ko nga, grabe ng ganda ng evolution niya. Kasi super morally gray ng San Vitores man. Like,
Oh gosh, yes.
super. Like, yung kay
Super.
Cameron, na-shock ako nga, hala, grabe talaga ng morality niya. Like, nandyan siya sa military, pero yung instincts niya when it comes to Naya is like, gagamitin ko yung, mga sindikato ng pamilya ko. I would use my family business for her. And, tsaka si Naya naman, kasi mas naintindihan ko yung pagka-realistic ng character niya. She loves and hates her father at the same time. Like, hindi
I
niya
know.
maintindihan ang kanyang nararamdaman towards her own father. Hindi pa rin niya na-process ang buong naramdaman niya during her previous marriage. And one thing about it was like, super na-hooked ako because yung feelings nila magulo talaga. And
I know.
that's something that hindi nakuha ni Jonaxx from her previous works, because sa previous works niya, sure talaga yung mga bida sa nararamdaman nila, but here sa After the Last, super mas nakita ko na mas human sila. Mas
Exactly.
grabe yung kanilang mga principles, like may mga principles silang binitawan, may principles silang natutunan, and that was something. And kasi Jonaxx was not afraid to tackle death during that story, especially sa Maid of Ruins. Kasi when she tackled death previously, yung sa part sa Sands of Time was like, lang siya, description or narration lang.
Yes.
Pero
Pabilis
dito
lang,
kasi
hindi siya, yeah.
may scene talaga na yung bida ay pumatay, yung bida ay may criminal records, ganun. And I was shocked na, ganito pala yun. I thought na ano lang siya, like very mature na theme, like mafia type. Pero yung bida kasi is like, hindi natatakot na magpahamak yung mga tao, ganito, ganyan. And dyan, especially sa part ni Winter, like na-compare ko siya she wrote it similarly sa Blown by the Wind, pero dito kasi mas human yung
Exactly.
nararamdaman ni Winter, because kahit kasi yung si Yuri sa time niya sa Blown by the Wind, hindi siya naghusga sa kanyang mga kapatid, whereas dito si Winter nanghuhusga talaga siya sa kapatid niya, at may mga bagay talaga siyang nagugustuhan sa sibling niya, at may bagay talaga siyang hindi nagugustuhan sa ate niya. Like, hindi siya binigyan niya ng sympathy yung sister niya, which is a very human is a very human feeling. And it was relatively new kasi yung feelings and thoughts niya about her family is iba based on how they act towards her. And base kasi yun sa sa growing up niya. And ang ganda lang ng shift niya, to be honest. And especially rin sa Rara Abyss, kasi dito ko nakikita that some characters are very tight with their principles, but they also made a lot of mistakes, especially sa younger years nila. And isang nakikita ko kasi is that not all of them are like pagiging santo, na pagiging ganyan. Like, nakikita ko na may guilt talaga sila, at naiisip nila, napahamak nila yung ibang tao. And with that, I can say that Jonaxx has really evolved as a writer, kasi yung mga characters niya from her current stories and current series is like, hindi natatakot na magkamali, hindi natatakot na flawed. So, it's with the readers na natin kung how are we going to perceive these characters. Because I personally perceive them as just human. May mga nagagawa sila ganito, ganyan. And some of their actions are quite questionable, some of their morals are questionable, may mga decisions sila na hindi natin magugustuhan, and that's one thing about her. Nasa readers na yun on how they're going to take these characters na.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Kasi ang maganda yung sinabi mo na they are very human because of them being flawed. Kaya alam mo yung mas nakaka-relate yung readers in a way na thinking, oh, may mga ganito talagang tao na hindi sila perfect. Pero alam mo yung in a way, they also sort of redeem themselves para maging alam mo yung parang yung sa mga scenarios sa stories na parang ma-deserve nila yung taong mahal nila, ganon. Like they really work on themselves to develop themselves. And yeah, gusto ko rin yung sinabi mo na may times na nag-break din sila ng principles. And that's actually very human din kasi sometimes may mga nangyayari sa buhay natin na parang mapapaisip ka ba na mag-hold ba ako sa principle na to, or should I do something else para magawa ko yung goal ko? Di ba yung mga ganong dilemma? They are very human dilemmas talaga. Very, very human dilemmas. Kasi, naalala ko rin kasi, yung sa mga dating stories ni Jonaxx, parang andun pa siya sa medyo parang almost perfect na yung mga characters, di ba? I mean, they're not totally 100%, pero hindi sila as flawed as the current characters that Jonaxx has written right now. So, ayun, talagang believe talaga ako sa current writing teams niya ngayon, sa ginamit niyang sa pagpasok niya ng social issues and yung mga how she portrayed her characters as they're much more human and much grounded sa reality sila. Siguro dala na rin to siguro din ng yun nga, syempre as Jonaxx goes on with her writing career, syempre mas nagiging mature siya and she's becoming more bold and daring. Yun yung gusto kong gamiting term. She is more daring, she's becoming bolder in experiencing and discovering other types of writing, some dimensions, some other genres, and different types of themes. Kaya mas na-expand and mas na-improve yung pagsusulat niya. And because of that, ang naging nangyayari is mas nagiging interesting yung mga stories na sinishare niya sa atin. And talagang tama ka nga na parang naging training ground, kumbaga yung To Fall Again. Parang it's like dipping our toes into it. Tapos, mas na-explore siya lalo sa Rera Avis, and then ito nga sa After the Last. And I'm really hoping na talagang ituloy pa ni Jonaxx yung trajectory na to. Kasi syempre, tayong readers niya, tumatanda na rin tayo eh. So, medyo okay na rin yung medyo mag-shift away tayo sa mga patwitams na mode para and go into more mature type of genres. Mature in a way na we are seeing more of realistic type of scenarios na alam nating feasible siya na mangyari. It can happen to anyone na if the situation will allow it, kumbaga. Okay?
Yeah, ganun.
Yeah. So, ang isa pa nating pag-uusapan for our part 1 of the podcast is yung first time niyang paggamit ng POV ng lalaki. Ito talaga yung nakita natin from simula hanggang sa last chapter. Tapos yung naging wakas na sa babae. So, again, diba sa TFA niya unang ginawa to, which is POV ni Josiah. So, ano masasabi mo sa paggamit niya for the first time ng guy POV as the main POV?
Mahirap subaybayin because lalaki talaga yung perspective niya at syempre yung sanay ka na sa point of view ng girl at syempre yung girl herself, ganun talaga yung maiisip mo, which is like ang hirap talaga, and that Josiah's thinking is so different from most of the male characters kasi yung point of view ni Elijah sa Until Forever was like cut short lang, pero dito kasi siya yung nag-navigate ng buong story, so it was like para kang nag-journey inside a mind of a guy, but at the same time nakikita mo that J-boys are very, very flawed. Like no matter how much they love their J-girls, it's like they're very, very flawed. And yung thinking ni Josiah was like a typical straight guy thinking, especially yung naalala ko yung mga male friends ko, mga kaklase kong lalaki na
Yes.
they really think this way. Especially
Exactly, yeah.
school classmates ko. And I was like, parang mga kilala ko lang to. And I was like, hindi siya kasing perfect tulad nila, nila Zamiel, tungod nila Sibal, tulad nila Ali, like, almost all J-boys na nagkawakas, he was so different in the way he acted. Like, makikita mo, ganito pala yung galawan ng mga lalaki. There were times na na-frustrate ako because, ay, parang kaibigan ko lang, ay, parang kaklase ko lang, like, ganun talaga yung nakikita ko sa kay
Yeah. Alam mo, totoo yan. Ang isa ko ring nagustuhan is, si Jonaxx, obviously, she's a woman. Pero the way na she wrote Josiah, hindi mo akalaing sulat ng babae to. Talagang, alam mo, like what you said, realistically, if you read about Josiah's POV, it's like a real-life straight guy. Talagang, wala akong nakitang bakas na babae ang susulat nito. Talagang lalaking-lalaki talaga yung pagkakasulat ng kanyang point of view, yung mga observation niya sa paligid niya, yung thinking process niya. Talagang it's very masculine, it's a very guy thing. Siguro din kasi I'm assuming na marami din sigurong guy friends si Jonah, and syempre through the years na sa mga nakilala niya, na-observe niya na yung ugali nila. And kahit naman tayong dalawa, di ba? Like, of course, we have male acquaintances, you have male friends, just like what you said. Ako rin naman, may mga nakilala din akong guys from muna nag-aaral ako, tapos ngayon in my adult life. So, and I have a partner also. So, talagang, syempre, na-expose na tayo on how men act, on how they think, and talagang na-reflect niya dito yun sa POV ni Josiah. So, alam mo yung, kasi minsan, di ba, I would say probably for others, for other writers or authors, it might be some sort of a challenge kapag nagsusulat na sila ng POV ng opposite gender. Kasi, syempre, of course, your whole life, babae ka. So, parang it might become a little bit of challenge or difficulty na mai-portray mo ng maigi yung pag-iisip ng isang lalaki. Tsaka lalo na yung gantong main POV, yung lalaki, hindi siya yung sa ending lang. I would say na talagang it takes a whole lot of talent din sa pagsusulat, ha.
Yeah.
Kasi yung consistency din, it's really important din na ma-maintain yung consistent na lalaki ang tone. Yung tone talaga, yun yung importanteng na-maintain ni Jonaxx. Yung tone ng POV ni Josiah, it was consistent and it was very relatable in a way na alam mong may kilala kang lalaki na talagang ganyan sila mag-iisip. Very in real life talaga siya. So, yun yung talagang isa sa napabilib ako sa pagsusulat niya for the first time na majority is a male POV.
Yeah,
and,
kasi hindi tayo sanay sa male point of views. Like, we're so used to them talking about their J-girls, pero hindi natin nakikita paano sila mag-isip sa kanilang paligid. So,
exactly.
Dito sa nakikita natin na, dito pala si Josiah. Like, sure, nakita natin mga one-liners niya, mga gimmick niya sa previous stories, pero dito nakikita talaga natin na ganito pala siya mag-isip, and you can't help but think or get frustrated or maybe feel a little bit happy kasi ganito pala yung mag-isip yung characters ni Ate J from another point of view. Tsaka kasi we were used to guys like Hendrix and Elijah na mahal na mahal talaga nila yung J-girls nila at ganito yung nakikita nila sa point of view nila. But sa kang Josiah kasi, siya kasi yung humawak ng buong story. So, kaya ganun talaga yung makikita natin. And the fact na it's very consistent until the last chapter na ganyan siya mag-isip. Like, makikita natin teenage boy thinking hanggang adulthood thinking siya.
Exactly. Talagang nakita mo rin yung pag-develop din ng kanyang character din eh. Kasi syempre, of course, when you start as a teenager, like medyo isip bata pa, hindi pa mature. Tapos talagang gradually nag-mature yung kanyang ugali and all that. Tapos yung pag-iintindi niya sa naging situation ni Ray. I love na, alam mo yung hindi siya nagmadali yung pinurso niya na talaga si Ray. Talagang he waited for the right timing. Yung alam niyang komportable na si Ray na ma-pursue siya. Kasi di ba nag-start silang friends, di ba? Di ba yung ngayon parang inside joke sa kanila na friends sila, pero alam naman lahat ng lahat ng tao na in love si Josiah kay Ray, pero he really waited for his time. He waited na hanggang sa maging comfortable si Ray, yung talagang okay na siya, na ma-pursue na siya and all that stuff. So talagang yun yung na-appreciate ko kay Josiah, na hindi siya nagpaka-impulsive. Like talagang he was really willing na i-adjust yung sarili niya kung ano yung komportable for Ray herself. And I think ang isa ring interesting for seeing a male's POV all throughout the story, except for the wakas, is iba talaga yung perspective nila on how they view things, right? Like yung nga sinasabi ko nga na talagang lalaki talaga yung pagkakasulat. So parang naisip ko lang na, oh wow, parang ganito pala yung pag sa POV ng lalaki. Like ganito pala sila mag-isip on certain matters, yung on certain issues, di ba? So talagang kitang-kita mo yung difference on how would a woman like us, how would we think on things. Talagang it can be the same thing in the same matter, pero ibang-iba yung angles natin on how we think on that. You know what I mean? So,
kasi yung approach niya sa conflict kasi is quite different on how the typical formulas ginamit ni Ate J sa pag-address ng mga conflict nila. Because sa J-Boys kasi, most of the time, sa point of view sa mga babae, is that they're willing to solve the problem. Pero dito sa Josiah kasi, is like nag-iisip pa siya kung paano niya i-approach itong problem. So dito mo yung makikita nga, the character that she's building is typically like totoong tao talaga siya.
Exactly.
At hindi siya napag-isip na ganito, ganyan siya. Like, he's smart and all. Pero at the end of the day, nakikita mo nga, ganito palang gusto niyang approach. Like, especially sa panliligaw niya kay Ray. He wasn't being impulsive. Hihintay talaga siya sa time niya to actually, go through her and her boundaries, her barriers, kasi
exactly,
may nangyayari sa kanya in the past. At nakikita mo talaga that despite him low-key judging Ray during their teenage years dahil sa scandal na yun, makikita mo that he's also navigating his way towards a woman. Kasi nung nililigaw siya ni Maple was like medyo nagmamadali siya. Pero nung sa time na ni Ray was like, napag-isip na siya na dapat baguhin niya yung approach niya. And it's like you're going to see na, ganito pala yung gusto nilang gagawin towards another girl, because you don't see it often in her stories. And that's something that we could actually get amazed with, because it's new to the readers and it's new to the people who actually love M series for a long time na nag-aantay sa story ni Kids.
Exactly. So, yeah, I agree doon sa sinabi mo. Yung nalala ko yung time na, kasi diba teenagers pa sila, tapos yung si Maple pa yung type niya, talagang kitang-kita mo yung impulsiveness, which is very appropriate sa paano mag-act ang mga teenagers. And that's one thing na nagusto ako sa sinulat ni Jonaxx, yung appropriate talaga siya sa anong edad na nung mga characters that time. So tama ka, yung time na yon impulsive pa siya kay Maple, syempre, di ba, hormones are acting on all that, gusto niyang makuha yung babaeng type niya. Pero yung pagdating kay Ray, kasi syempre mas tumanda na siya, he's already in his 20s, and nakikita mo talaga yung pag-evolve ng character niya, na he is really, yung term na willing to wait talaga and mag-adjust and compromise. Yung talaga, those are really big things, because in this day and age, sa dating atmosphere ngayon, how often can you meet a guy na ganun, diba? Yung willing to compromise, adjust, and wait hanggang maging okay and ready yung babae, diba? That's really something else, and that's something to really commend about Josiah. Kaya, alam mo, honestly, nakikita ko kung bakit siya yung best Montefalco guy for Jonaxx. I can totally see it now.
Yeah,
lalo na
Though, I mean, he's not my personal favorite, pero ang ganda lang talaga ng evolution ng character niya. And the fact that we're seeing it from his point of view, hindi lang talaga sa lens ni Ray. Siguro sa lens ni Ray is kiligin tayo. Pero sa lens niya is like, ma-amaze tayo because, natuto na talaga siya finally, ganito.
I know. Pag binata na talaga.
You don't really get it from a real life scenario. Like, previously, masasabi ko, medyo idealistic yung approach ng mga J-boys. But sa point of view ni Josiah, that was actually real. Kasi para siyang nabigyan ng advice ng mga tao sa paligid niya. And
Exactly.
he's willing to change about that. And same goes sa formula niya when she wrote To Get Over You, because makikita ko kasi is that gaano kakulit si Azzy, and at the same time, yung sa point of view niya, nakikita ko nga, ay may ganito pala siyang mga tinatago. And he's not also perfect sa kanyang mga galawan. So, from that point of view, makikita ko nga, there are parts sa mga characters niya, especially sa J-Boys niya, that are not too idealistic or dapat maging standard sila ng mga tao. It's all about their development because we only see it sa wakas, but we never saw it in a full story na sila yung humawak sa buong salita nila.
Exactly. I know, right? So, talagang, so to sum it up, talagang refreshing talaga na makita na it's a guy's POV talaga all throughout the story, tapos sa dulo na lang yung babae. I mean, it's a big shift, but you know what? It's something na I appreciate na Jonaxx did para something new to offer to us. Okay, so guys, that wraps up the part 1 of our podcast. So hang on there and we will see you guys again on the part 2 of this podcast.